Hi everyone, welcome to my sewing studio and welcome back to the third in our Sew Cozy video series. In the first video of this series, I listed three great cozy knit fabrics to sew with, and in the second video I gave you three great elevated sweatshirt patterns you might want to try. In today's video I'm going to give you tips and tricks on sewing one of those sweatshirt patterns, and that is the Bainbridge top by Itch to Stitch. But first, let me introduce myself. I am Lisa, the owner and designer of Pink Holly Bush Patterns, a line of children's sewing patterns that most of which are designed for knits and most of which contain an option for smocking. But I am an avid sewist for myself and my adult daughters. So here on my channel, we talk all things sewing and smocking. But right now, when it is 20 degrees outside my window, we are talking about sewing cozy knit garments. And today's video, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on sewing the Bainbridge sweatshirt by Itch to Stitch. So before we go over to my cutting table, let me just say that this was a gift that I was making for my mom. I made this sweatshirt using sweatshirt fleece, a 330 GSM sweatshirt fleece from Emma One Sock, and the placket and bias binding is a Liberty Lawn from my stash. So the sweatshirt does use a knit base fabric such as the sweatshirt fleece, and then a woven fabric you can use a lawn like I did. You could use a quilting cotton, a poplin, broadcloth for the binding and the placket. So with that, let's go over to my sewing table and let me show you some tips on constructing the placket. So the challenge in sewing the placket comes from the fact that first you're sewing a woven and an interfaced woven at that to a knit. The knit wants to stretch, the woven doesn't. And then that you want to line up this seam so that when the placket's closed visually, this all lines up here. So the pattern does include a notch marking on the placket piece of where you're going to line this up with the seam, and so that is a great help. But I still found that I had to rip it out several times to get it to all line up. So how do you hopefully avoid that? Well, the first thing is definitely sew with the woven up and the knit against the feed dogs. The knit, as I said, wants to stretch. So if the larger side is against those feed dogs, it does help feed it through better. I tried it both ways. If you have the knit on top, the presser foot is helping to stretch it even more, and so you're fighting all the way. So I'm stitching with the interfaced woven on the top, the knit on the bottom, and I'm going to use my awl to just slip under and kind of keep pushing that knit up towards the feed dogs. You can see how the knit is bigger. And just pushing it up and in there. And yes, I might end up with a little bubble, but if I do, I can just rip that part out, snip it. lots of pins also helps. But this prevents the presser foot from stretching the knit. Let's see. I do have one. Let's see. So, as you can see, I do have a couple little, get the thread out of there. I have a little one here and a little one here, but I'm going to go give it a good press first, and then this comes over, so that might very well press out. So before I go ripping out, I'm going to go try pressing it first, and we shall see what we have. The second thing to do is the pattern directions have you sew one side of the placket completely and then the second side, and I would advise you not to do that. Instead, show you how. The first step is to sew the placket piece to the bodice just like that. I would do that for both sides and then bring it and check it. See, at that point, are you lining up? Then the next step is to sew here across the top, and I would do that on both sides, and again, see, is everything still lining up? And then do your top stitching, which is the third step. Another little tip is when you fold this back piece back on itself and you stitch right along here, rather than lining them up on the side completely, if you offset them just a little bit, that will help when you turn it this way. You'll be able to cover everything up a little bit better on this side rather than lining it up perfectly. And when you do that, also stitch from this side so you can make sure that you don't catch the collar piece as you're going across here, so then you can turn everything out just like that. I hope these hints help you when you stitch the placket on. So I just wanted to go over this pocket construction a little bit because it's a unique way of doing it, and having done it now, I do have some tips for how to do it. So the first step is you stitch this box right here, and let me show you. I've got it done on this side but haven't done the pocket yet, so hopefully you can see it. I realize it's in matching thread, but you see here's this rectangular box that you stitch, and the way I did that was to stitch from the right side, and I just used my fabric disappearing marker and drew the rectangle right on the fabric and then stitched it. And then the pattern instructs you to just pin the pocket in place and to stitch this down from the wrong side. And that's what I did here. I went ahead and stitched it down, so you can see here's that line of stitching. Then the bottom of the pocket is going to get caught in the hem. And then this right now is just basted, the side seam is basted closed, and I'll open that up and then you'll have a perfect pocket. When I stitched this, it of course did not perfectly line up here at the top on this rectangle. The stitching actually went a little bit up here, and I didn't like the look of it. It was just too messy. So what I did was ripped it out a little bit and went back and stitched from here, coming in directly on top of that rectangle. So now when I do this side, knowing that, what I'm going to do is my rectangles here. Rather than ripping out, I'm going to stay on the right side. I'm going to start here right on this rectangle. I'm going to do this rectangle and just go like about another inch or so, stitching the pocket down. Then I will flip over to the wrong side. That stitching will show here, and I'll just follow it right around and stitch the pocket in place. That way I won't have to rip out and line things up like I did over here. So I just want to show you this pocket turned out great using that method. So I started here at the top of the box and just angled towards the first pin, added probably another 1.5 inches and stopped, then turned it inside out. Okay, and I then stitched around the edge of the pocket from the wrong side. But let me just show you here. Hopefully you can see that. If I had just followed the edge of the pocket, the stitching would be way up here. And instead, this is where I'm coming in to line up with the top of that box. But you can see if the stitching was up here, it would be very close to the top of the box, but not on top of the box. And that's the part I really kind of didn't like. So here it is, looks great. There's my nice fuzzy pocket inside. I do think it would be really fun if I make this again to put the woven contrast fabric in here so you kind of see that peeking out of the sides. So here I am in the Bainbridge sweatshirt, and I'm trying it on for size. This is actually a gift for my mom, but I just wanted to let you see a few things, and I'm trying to, it's going to be a Christmas present for her, so I'm trying to just get a sense of fit. So my mom's a little bit smaller than I am, so I think overall this is going to be a great fit. If I were doing this for me, I would have gone up a size just because it's sweatshirt, and I would have wanted just a little bit more room kind of in here. But I'm very pleased with the overall fit. I think it will be great for her. I was debating, you can see, you might not be able to, that the stitching on the pocket really kind of falls. You really don't see it. I was debating whether I liked that, so trying it on has helped. I'm pleased with it. I will leave it. I was debating switching out the pocket and making the pocket out of the contrast woven fabric. If you did that, you wouldn't have to see the stitching. You see the stitching right now because it's not a pocket bag. It's just one piece, and so it has to be stitched in place to make it the pocket. But by using the fleece for the pocket, it makes a very nice, warm, fuzzy pocket in there, which I think she'll like. Now, you'll see the length is not real long, and that's because it's finished with a bias binding. So this is the length it will be, and I think that's a good length for her. If you wanted to hem this, for her, I still could. As I said, she's a little bit smaller than I am, and she's a little bit, her height is smaller, and her upper body is more in the petite size as far as height. So I certainly could put a hem in this, and it would be fine for her. I'm hesitant, I'm going back and forth on that, to be honest. Part of me likes the cleaner look of just doing the hem rather than putting the contrast here. And I might give in and do that. The negative of doing that is then you do have the bulk of the pocket in the hem. The thing I do want you to see though are the sleeves. And I thought they looked long when I was cutting them out, but they are really long. And my mom has short arms. So I was aware of this and anticipated that I was going to have to trim the sleeves regardless. But even for me, I would trim the sleeves. Now, when you look at the pattern, I think it is purposely designed to have the sleeves to be a little bit longer over like as in the sense of like wearing it as an outside jacket that would give you more protection on your hands. But my mom will be wearing it inside. If she wears it outside, she's gardening. She's not going to want these down over her hands. So this on me, I would cut this off. It's a trim off a full 2¼ inches. So there really is a lot of length here. You know, even if I wanted that warmer hand, you can see this is how far it comes down on me. Okay, and that would drive me crazy. So for me, it would be 2¼ inches. I will probably be cutting off 2½ to 2¾ inches off these sleeves for my mom. And again, they're finished with a bias band. So otherwise, though, I am really happy with the fit, and I think my mom's gonna love it. I hope you find this tutorial helpful and that you give the Bainbridge sweatshirt a try. Happy sewing!